Choreb Beruach, Sword of the Spirit. Interpreted and narrated by Wendy. Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 33. And Jacob went on his way. Also, the angels of Elohim met him. Then, when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is the encampment of Elohim." Therefore he called the name of that place Machnaim, encampments. And Jacob sent angels to the presence of Ashau, his brother, unto the land of Shaer, Shagi, the country of Adum. Then he commanded them, saying, "This you will speak to my lord, Ashau. Thus saith your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban, and stayed there until now. And I have oxen and asses, flocks and menservants and maidservants. And I have sent to tell unto my lord, that I may find grace in your sight." Then the angels returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Ashau. Also he is coming unto you, and 400 men with him." Therefore Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. So he divided the people who were with him, and the flocks, and herds, and the camels, into 2 camps. Also he said, "If Ashau comes to one camp and strikes it, then the other camp which is left will escape." Furthermore, Jacob said, "O Elohim of my father Abraham, and Elohim of my father Yitzhak, he who exists, who said to me, Return to your country and to your kindred, and I will deal well with you. I am not worthy of the least of all your mercies, and of all the truth which you have showed your servant. For I have passed over this Yarden with my staff, but now I have become 2 camps. Deliver me, I pray you, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Ashau. For I fear him, lest he will come and strike me, the mother with the children. For you said, Surely I will do you good, and make your seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude." Then he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came to his hand a present for Ashau his brother, 200 she-goats, and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, and 20 rams, 30 milk camels with their colts, 40 cows, and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, and 10 fowls. Then he delivered them into the hand of his servants. Each drove by themselves, and said to his servants, "Pass over before me, and put a space between drove and drove." Also he commanded the foremost, saying, "When my brother Ashau meets you, and asks you, saying, Whose are you? And where are you going? And whose are these before you? Then you will say, They are your servants, Jacob. This is a present sent unto my lord Ashau. And behold, he is behind us as well." Furthermore, he commanded the second and the third, and all who followed the droves, saying, "On this manner you will speak to Ashau, when you find him. Also say, Behold, your servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease him with the present that goes before me. After this, I will see his face. Perhaps he will accept my face." Therefore the present went over before him, and during the night he lodged at that camp. But he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 maidservants, and his 11 sons, and passed over ford Jabbok. Then he took them and sent them over the brook, and he sent over what he had. Thus Jacob was left alone, and there a man wrestled with him until the break of day. And when he saw that he did not prevail against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh. Therefore, the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint as he wrestled with him. And he said, "Let me go, for the day breaks." But he replied, "I will not let you go, except you endow me." Then he said to him, "What is your name?" And he answered, "Jacob." Then he said, "Your name will not be called Jacob any more, but Yeshariel. He is a prince of all. For you are a prince with Elohim and with mortals. Thus you will overcome." Therefore Jacob asked and said, "I pray you, tell me your name." However, he asked, "Why is it that you have asked for my name?" Then he endowed him there. And Jacob called the name of that place Penuel, facing all. For I have seen Elohim face to face. Yet you have preserved my life. Then the sun rose upon him as he passed over Penuel, and he hobbled upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Yeshariel do not eat the sinew, which is the tendon upon the hollow of the thigh, to this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew of the shank. Furthermore, Jacob lifted up his eyes and looked. Behold, Ashau was coming, and with him was 400 men. Therefore he divided the children unto Leah, and unto Rachel, and unto both handmaids. Then he put the handmaids and their children foremost. Then Leah and her children were after. Then Rachel and Yusuf were the furthest back. Moreover, he passed over before them, and bowed himself to the ground 7 times, until he came near to his brother. Then Ashau ran to meet him, and embraced him. Therefore he fell upon his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. Also he lifted up his eyes, and saw the women and the children. Then he asked, "Who are these with you?" And he answered, "The children which Elohim has graciously given your servant." Then the handmaids came near, them and their children, and they bowed themselves. Also Leah with her children came near, and they bowed themselves. Afterwards Yusuf and Rachel came near, and they bowed themselves. Then he asked, "What do you mean by all those droves which I met?" And he answered, "Those are to find grace in the sight of my Lord." Therefore Ashau said, "I have enough, my brother. Keep that which you have unto yourself." But Jacob said, "No, I pray you. If now I have found grace in your sight, then receive my present from my hand. For such as I have seen your face is like seeing the face of Elohim, and you are pleased with me. Take, I pray you, my endowment, which is brought unto you, because Elohim has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough." Thus he urged him. Therefore he took it. Then he said, "Let us take our journey, and let us go, and I will go before you." But he said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are tender, and the flocks and the herds with me are with young. Moreover, if the men overdrive them one day, the entire flock will die. I pray you, let my Lord pass over before his servant, and I will lead on softly, according to the livestock that goes before me, and the children are able to endure, until I come unto my Lord towards Sha'er." Therefore Ashau said, "Now let me leave some people who are with me with you." And he asked, "Why is it needed?" "Let me find grace in the sight of my Lord." So Ashau returned on his way towards Sha'er that day. But Jacob journeyed to Sukkot. Then he built himself a house and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of that place is called Sukkot, booths.